We are fortunate to have with us today one of the principal authors of the FEMP M&V guideline and a major player in the development of the NEMVP. He is Steve Cromer, energy engineer at DOE's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California, and he joins us live now from Kansas City. Thanks so much for being with us, Steve.
Thank you, Doris. Hi.
Hi. Now, for those of us who may still be confused, what's the relationship between the NEMVP and the FEMP and M&V guidelines?
The relationship is that, as you heard a little bit earlier from Greg Katz, about a little more than a year ago, NEMVP as a body was formed, a committee was started, DOE was the host along with EPA and others in Washington, and a number of groups were brought together under one committee, and a task was assigned to create a consensus document as much as possible with everybody included. That effort went forward. FEMP was a part of that, and around early into the effort, the ABCs and some of the structure of the document were formed. Along that time, FEMP also decided to go ahead with an application document, and that's what's come along with the FEMP document.
Steve, can you explain why proper M&V is so crucial to financing energy projects?
Proper M&V comes in a lot of places. It actually is part of a larger information picture of the overall technical picture of a project. M&V is, of course, the baseline and the post-installation measurement. What happens is M&V, the verification stage, lives for the life of the contract. It becomes the basis of payment for the life of the contract. What's important is for everybody to understand the risks and assumptions that are set up when they adopt an option A, B, or C early on, and how it's going to live with them for the life of the contract.
Okay, does the FEMP M&V guideline apply to both energy savings, performance contracting, and utility partnerships, and how?
Sure. It's especially usable by energy savings performance contracts, but actually parts of it were written, drawn from elements of demand-side management programs and other earlier protocols which addressed utility partnerships.
How does M&V help increase confidence in energy savings baseline that's at the heart of every energy contract?
Well, there's obviously a comfort level when you can measure what's happening. As Lynn Sutcliffe said earlier, the basic approach to M&V is to come up with an assessment of the performance of the equipment or facility beforehand and afterwards, and come up to some conclusion that you've improved the performance. The secondary aspect is actually generating savings with that. In some cases, establishing performance, potential to perform, is good enough. In some cases, you want to identify those savings and can measure for the duration of the contract.
Okay. Now, you're encouraging agencies to use the FEMP guideline in every step of the contracting process, even before the solicitation is actually prepared. Why is this so important?
I think when I first got involved in M&V, there was an implication, or people assumed that M&V was easy, and it was just something you threw in and did after you were done with all the other parts of your performance contract. What we've revealed through FEMP and NEMVP is there's a lot of different ways of doing it. What we try to do is get together as a common language and a system of approaches that you can choose. What's important is each of those approaches takes different assumptions. It's kind of contradictory, but in fact, there is no way to measure what's not there, and that's savings. Each of the approaches, A, B, and C, take a different look at how to assume, to determine savings. And there's assumptions assigned to each of those. You have to know what those assumptions are in order to intelligently see that you're getting the savings down the road and not, say, mistake it.
Okay, how does M&V affect the cost of financing an energy project?
Well, we're hoping it's going to drop that. We're hoping that certainty along the financial markets that these savings are occurring and that the partnerships are happening and people are agreeing and not fighting down the road. We're hoping there's a common language that all people can use to keep these contracts moving ahead peacefully as partnerships, and financiers will see that, and there'll be much more success and a lot easier to implement.
And finally, Steve, how can agencies learn how to use the FEMP guideline?
Well, I think there's a workshop going on right now in Atlanta. Hi to you guys down there. We're doing training here. I assume there'll be more of these types of trainings, and you can get copies of the protocol as you've seen earlier. Read it yourself. That's a good point. Earlier today, we were giving a talk, and we're talking to a group of engineers, and I think there's some implication that this is an engineering enterprise and it's difficult. What we've tried to do with the protocols is take what's understandable and generic and important for everybody to understand and put it in the first few chapters of the guidelines. So I think everybody involved in ESPC should get a copy of and understand the ABCs, the first few chapters. The last part of the guidelines, you can maybe go to a workshop, read it more diligently, call us, and understand the technical details. But you shouldn't be scared of M&V. It's good for everybody.
Great. Thanks, Steve, for joining us and for taking time out from your M&V workshop to join us from Kansas City.
Thank you.